Hey there folks! This video is going to present two versions of events. One I compiled from many articles, press releases, and documentaries out there about this case. And the other version will be the story as told by a family member of the missing individual, Selena Not Afraid. I'm going to do this to show how much important detail sometimes gets left by the wayside when these stories are reported on in the media. The first version of the story may seem confusing at first, until Selena's aunt Cheryl Horn clears up many of the details that simply don't seem to make sense. I also want to acknowledge a viewer of this channel, Curtis, for his persistence in bringing this case to my attention and his desire to have this video made in order to get the word out. I also want to thank his wife Kateri for sending me this hoodie, which features the MMIW symbol, which is Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women, a topic that is relevant to the case we are about to cover in this video. Now, while hard data on the issue in the US has been difficult to collect for a variety of reasons, there are still thousands of missing Indigenous women in the US. It is also generally accepted that Native American women go missing at higher rates than women of any other ethnicity. An inquiry done in Canada into the MMIW issue and released in 2019 found that Indigenous women and girls were 12 times more likely to be murdered or go missing than members of any other demographic. Many of these cases also go unsolved. A report funded by the U.S. Department of Justice and released in 2008 found that some counties in the U.S. have rates of murder against Indigenous women that are 10 times the national average. In the U.S., all too often, these cases go unreported or get forgotten, and a problem I have frequently run into is the difficulty in retrieving information on certain cases, especially if they occur on a reservation. The reluctance of authorities to release pertinent information will rear its head in this case. Were it not for receiving information from outside sources, I probably could not have made a significant and factually accurate video about this. I also learned through the course of making this video that the government themselves are not very good at keeping the status of these cases up to date. So, while the data may be difficult to truly quantify, the problem itself has become very apparent, especially in states like Montana, where this case occurs. Selena Shelley Faye Not Afraid was 16 years old in January of 2020. She was the daughter of Jacquelina Jackie Big Hair and Leroy Not Afraid. At the time, she was a junior at Hardin High School in Hardin, Montana. Selena had an extended family with a number of siblings. She was known to be a sweet, silly, fun-loving girl who had many friends, but she was also an individual who had suffered through many family tragedies. Selena was born alongside a twin sister, Zoe, who would sadly take her own life in 2014 at the age of 11. 3 years later, in 2017, Selena's older brother, Preston Bell, would be killed by police at the age of 24. These family tragedies would only continue when Selena's older sister, Tristan Gray, was killed during a hit-and-run incident in 2018. This trauma deeply affected Selena, as it would anyone, and she reportedly never got through the sadness of it. By 2019, Selena's parents had separated, and due to a very tumultuous relationship with her father, she lived with her mother, Jackie, on the south side of Billings, Montana. On New Year's Eve 2019, Selena's mother, Jackie, dropped her off at a house party at 904 Miles Avenue in the city of Billings. Selena, being a minor, was dropped off with a friend, 20-year-old Deandra Pittman. Many people attended the party, and a number of them were reportedly underage. It's unknown how much Selena drank that night, but it's been widely reported that she engaged in drinking while there. Selena would stay with her friends for the entire night. Early on New Year's Day, Selena's mother, Jackie, was driving around looking for her daughter. Selena's aunt, Cheryl Horn, called her that morning. Selena told Cheryl that she was not at home, but was about to head that way. Sometime afterward, Selena entered a van with 5 other people and left. Of the 5, it's been reported that 4 of them were males and 1 was female. All of them were in their 20s, while Selena, being only 16, was a minor. The group of 6 then began driving to Hardin, Montana. To this day, no explanation has been uncovered as to why Selena might have got into the van and begun traveling to Hardin. During this time, they passed and could have easily dropped Selena off at her home on the south side of Billings. Either way, about halfway through the trip on I-90, around 2 p.m., the car broke down at a deserted rest stop. At this point, one of the vehicle's occupants took a Snapchat video which appears to show Selena arguing with one of the male occupants. Another person is seen behind the open hood of the van and appears to be actively working in the engine compartment. Another female is seen at the end of the video. The first few frames of the video show that someone is holding a beer. Sometime after this moment, Selena and the other female went off on their own, with Selena expressing a desire to walk off into the barren hills. Before long, the van was back in working order, and it was expected that everyone will return to the vehicle. For reasons that are unclear, Selena and the other female did not get back in the van. Initial reports indicated that the driver was afraid the van would break down again or stall, so he drove off without the girls since they weren't in the immediate area. Either way, the boys would decide to get in the vehicle and leave both girls behind. One remained at the rest stop, but Selena would vanish entirely, and was reportedly last seen walking off into the desert. The driver of the van would then call his mother to go to the rest area to pick up the girls. Surprisingly, the driver's mother arrived only 10 to 15 minutes later, and she found only one of the girls there, with Selena gone. It has been reported that this female witness was found hiding in a ditch with scratched legs and no shoes on. This female witness would later tell authorities that Selena crossed a fence and started walking toward a patch of trees. The female witness could not explain why Selena decided to do this. Selena apparently had attempted to get the female witness to go with her as she wandered out into the open. At the time, Selena was not dressed for cold weather conditions and was last seen wearing a black coat, gray sweater, blue jeans, and gray ankle boots. Selena's father, Leroy Not Afraid, was notified that his daughter was left behind at the rest area, so he called the sheriff of Bighorn County, Lawrence Big Hair, to start a search and rescue in the area. The search for Selena began almost immediately. It was assumed that she should be found rather easily amongst the vast open landscape, and only a small amount of time had passed since she disappeared. When Selena was not found quickly, law enforcement began to consider the idea that Selena was never at the rest stop in the first place. As the first night of the search drew to a close, a thermal drone was deployed as the weather became cold and windy. The thought was that Selena's heat signature would be easy to see in the open expanse of land where she attempted to walk. The drone would return that night without any success. Canines also participated in the search, starting with the very first day. Because official search reports haven't been released, we are dependent on the news reports and interviews regarding the search. One canine officer who participated in the search was using a dog that was trained to follow the strongest human scent in the area. Because other searchers were present, the dog often hit on them. This canine officer was quickly called off the search. Another canine officer only spent an hour and a half searching. Over the course of 20 days, over 100 professional and volunteer searchers would participate in the search for Selena. In addition to everything else, searchers from the Sheriff's Department, Bureau of Indian Affairs, FBI, and the Crow Agency Tribal Police would search on foot, horse, ATV, and helicopter. The search would extend out to 3 to 4 miles. As it continued to drag on, Bighorn County Sheriff Lawrence Big Hair would say that the circumstances surrounding Selena's disappearance were beginning to look suspicious. He did not believe that Selena could have walked more than the 5 miles out, which searchers were then covering. The van Selena was riding in was impounded and searched, but detectives found nothing suspicious inside. Because of this, the sheriff began speculating that perhaps someone driving along I-90 had stopped and picked up Selena. Sheriff Big Hair would also tell reporters that the information provided by the people driving the van wasn't adding up, and that their stories had been conflicting. Selena's case received widespread media attention, more than many other missing Native women had received in times prior. Montana Senator John Tester even wrote a letter requesting all available resources from the FBI and BIA be directed at the search for Selena. On January 20th at around 10:30 a.m., federal law enforcement agents found the body of Selena frozen to the barren ground less than a mile from the rest area. Selena was found fully clothed beyond a set of power lines. There was no debris covering her body and no obvious signs of scavenging. Selena's cell phone was found on her body, but the battery was dead. The sheriff reported that there was no evidence that anybody had dropped her off in the area, since there were no footprints or boot prints around her. An initial press release by the sheriff's office indicated that foul play wasn't suspected in the case, but wasn't ruled out either.
Authorities are suspecting no foul play in this case, correct?
Correct. No foul play suspected at this time.
The close proximity of Selena's body to the rest stop shocked many people. How could they have missed her if she had been there for around 20 days? The area where Selena was found had reportedly been searched before. The Bighorn County Undersheriff Eric Winburn would indicate that the volunteers and professionals who participated in the search for the first couple weeks did not do a thorough job. It was his belief that the volunteer searchers had little or no experience, and the professional searchers were in turn required to essentially babysit them. Because of this, the undersheriff believed that no grid area was searched in such a way that they could definitively eliminate the possibility that Selena was in that area. He would go as far as to say that the initial searchers could have walked right by her. It wasn't until the Department of the Interior sent in their Ranger Search and Rescue team that thorough grid searches were accomplished. It was this team that eventually found Selena so close to the rest stop from which she left. A couple of days after being discovered, an autopsy was performed on the body of Selena Not Afraid by State Medical Examiner Dr. Robert Kurtzman. Afterwards, the Bighorn County Sheriff reported that no evidence of an attack was found. Selena's body showed no evidence of broken bones, bullet wounds, or damage of any kind that would indicate foul play. The official cause of death for Selena was listed as hypothermia, and the incident was declared accidental. During this time, the county attorney, Jay Harris, would come out and say that he disagreed with the sheriff's characterization that foul play was not suspected, and that he considered the investigation to still be a criminal one. He would go on to say that he would pursue any provable criminal activities surrounding the circumstances of Selena's disappearance. Later, the medical examiner Dr. Robert Kurtzman would go into greater detail on Selena's cause of death during interviews for the documentary Murder in Bighorn. He would state that no alcohol was found in her system, but he believed if she drank alcohol it may have been metabolized while she was walking around. He referenced the presence of dehydration and ketoacidosis in her body as evidence backing his theory. He would also add that Selena had abrasions on her body consistent with crawling on the ground. Dr. Kurtzman believes Selena may have been in the process of paradoxically undressing, based on the position of her body. Shortly after the discovery of Selena's remains, Sheriff Big Hair would remove Undersheriff Eric Winburn from his position and replace him with Leroy Not Afraid, Selena's father. Leroy Not Afraid would state that he removed himself from every aspect of the investigation into Selena's death. In the end, the case was actually turned over to the Montana Department of Justice in August of 2020. Their goal was to look at all the evidence in the case and advise about possible criminal charges if any blame was determined. In the end, they would hand some of their investigation off to the Billings City Attorney's Office. On December 23, 2020, the city attorney charged Deandra Pittman with endangering the welfare of children. Miss Pittman was the 20-year-old woman who, per court documents, invited Selena to the New Year's house party with the intended purpose of drinking alcohol. Pittman would allege that she passed out at some point during the night, and when she woke up the next day, Selena was already gone. In the city of Billings, endangering the welfare of children is a misdemeanor. In July of 2021, Deandra Pittman pled guilty to the offense and was handed a 6-month suspended jail sentence, meaning she would serve no jail time as long as she stayed out of trouble. She was also put on probation for a time. The disappearance and death of Selena Not Afraid created countless questions. Why did she get in the van with these people? Why did she walk off on her own? How could it take 20 days to find her when she was so close to the rest area? Attempting to answer these questions becomes more difficult when faced with a county that seems to not want information released. The Bighorn County Sheriff considers the death of Selena to be an accident. If that is truly the case, you would think that they would have no problem releasing the records associated with the search and recovery of her body. When I contacted the FBI about retrieving any records they had about this case, they sent me a letter stating that they couldn't give me anything because Selena was still missing. I informed them that Selena was actually found and also sent them her obituary for their own records. I have yet to hear back from them. When I contacted the Bighorn County Sheriff about this case, they passed me off to the county attorney's office. When I talked to them and filed the requisite paperwork, they came back and told me that the information was confidential criminal justice information, which they are not permitted to release unless I petition the court. I don't think I've ever received this particular response. Selena's death was ruled accidental. The sheriff said they did not believe there to be any foul play. A review of the case by an external entity turned up charges for only one individual related to the case, Deandra Pittman, and that was at the end of 2020. This sequence of events would indicate to me that the case was investigated, they charged who they could, and the case should now be closed. I pressed the county attorney further about the current disposition of Selena's case. They said Bighorn County considers this an open and active case. This is a rather surprising development. Now that a few years have passed, there are no longer any updates from the sheriff about what they might be investigating related to the case. If they said they believed there was no foul play back when it happened, does this mean they now believe there could have been foul play? It's hard to know if they're keeping the case open because they genuinely think there is something to investigate, or if they're keeping it open to placate the public. Either way, the status of the case makes it so that many details are shrouded in secrecy. After reviewing the case, I was left with more questions than I knew what to do with. Luckily, there was someone close to this case who was willing to talk about it.
My name is Cheryl Horn, and I'm Selena's aunt.
Cheryl was kind enough to sit down and have a conversation with me about this case. She was also featured in the docu-series Murder in Bighorn, along with other family members and also members of the Bighorn County Sheriff's Office. The series did a good job of covering Selena's case from a number of different perspectives, but I was curious what Cheryl thought of the documentary.
The film that's out, Bighorn, Murder in Bighorn, that happened like right after, immediately after this, maybe a couple months later. So that was really instant, and I never got to see it, so I never knew what they were saying. I really didn't even know Leroy was on there, and so I never really got to correct anything that was wrong with it, or say, hey, this is not what happened and this is how on my end, from my version. They could say what, I can only speak from me and Jackie.
Cheryl was able to clear up many confusing details that pop up in the case. I wanted to know more about Selena's living situation. How was she a student at Hardin High School but also living with her mother in Billings? And what was her relationship with Deandra Pittman like?
So she would go to school Monday through Friday and be in Hardin, but Friday, Grandma would bring her to Billings. And Sunday night, Grandma would pick her up and take her back for school. She didn't party. She didn't have all that kind of freedom like that.
Okay.
She had freedom to do sports, to go to events, to go shopping, to go, with friends here, with friends there. But these girls weren't her friends, Deandra wasn't her friend. She was Tristan's friend, Selena's older sister. So
Well,
she
but
started
you're
befriending
Jackie
Selena.
dropped Selena off with
Mhm.
Deandra, but
Yeah.
so they had
So
some sort of
about
relationship, right?
yeah, it had formed over the previous couple months
Okay,
because of this connection with her older sister.
okay,
Yeah, and Jackie, that's what Jackie said, they've been hanging out, her and Deandra, because of Tristan,
okay.
the older
And
sister,
that night,
Selena's.
it wasn't about dropping because the documentary made it sound like Selena's mom, Jackie, dropped her off at a
Mm-mm.
party to
No,
do drinking, but that's
uh-uh.
not the case.
Yeah, no, she was going. She asked when Jackie had mentioned that she's going to the casino to play her $5 with the other aunt, Misty. Selena jumped up and just really quickly said, "Take me to Dion." No, it's like after we talked about it, it's like they had it planned. She
Hmm.
was all dressed and like her
Okay.
and her mom had plans not to go anywhere until the aunt showed up to want to go play five at the casino with Jackie. So it's like it was already planned one way or then another. It was like Deandra was going to pick her up. So she said, okay, so Deandra lives in the Heights, which is the north side, way up on the north of Rims and Billings there. So on their way, that's when she says, oh, Deandra's not at her house. She's at her boyfriend's. And then Jackie's like, okay, now Deandra has a boyfriend because she didn't have a boyfriend.
Is that Wade
So
who you mentioned?
Wade.
According to Cheryl, the house at 904 Miles Avenue was the home of Wade Oldcrow, not Deandra Pittman as is often reported. Jackie and Selena's aunt Misty would drop Selena off at the address before the two women went off to the casino.
Pull up to Wade's house. There wasn't a party going on when that early that evening. That was about 8:30, 9 o'clock, New Year's Eve. So there was no house party when she took her there. There was just Deandra's car parked on the street, and that's where Selena jumped off, turned around, waved at her mom, told her bye mom, and
And
that
well,
headed out.
was Jackie expecting to pick Selena up that night or the next day? Do you know?
No, Deandra was supposed to bring her back within an hour. She
Within an
was supposed to
hour.
just go on a little cruise while
Wow.
mom played at the casino.
Wow.
It wasn't she didn't have permission to do anything other than take a ride
Wow.
while mom went to the casino. That was it. She didn't have plans to permission to do all that, but come to find out later it had been planned.
Cheryl is indicating that Selena may have had plans to sneak off to the party that night without her mom knowing. As Selena stayed with her friends overnight, her mother Jackie became increasingly worried. Again, it is widely accepted that Selena engaged in drinking during the night, and Cheryl would not become involved personally until the following morning when she tried calling Selena.
So I called her and I was like, you know, Happy New Year, Sal, like that. And I said, hey, where's your mom? And she's like, oh, she's home. And then when she said that, just automatically things were like, hey, something's not right. So then at that point, I paid attention, and in the background, there was music and there was men talking. I could hear them. And I said, what's going on, Sal? And she said, oh, I'm going home. She said, I'm going home now. I said, well, I was trying to call your mom, to that effect. She didn't answer. And so I said, okay. And I said, hey, Selena, or no, I didn't say Selena. I said, hey, Sal. I said, whatever's going on, it's time to go home now. And she said, oh, I am. I'm going home. And she was not drunk because she still sounded the same as when she normally talks. Maybe she had been drinking during the night, obviously, according to the videos, but she wasn't out of it. She wasn't slurring. She wasn't where I could even tell she was drunk. I thought she was with friends.
Did Jackie, it sounded like, at least when I was watching the documentary, it sounded like at some point Jackie left on New Year's Day to try and go pick Selena up from somewhere. Did that
Okay.
happen?
Yeah. So she never come back. So Jackie, who just didn't own a car,
Oh,
This is the
okay.
whole point of this whole thing. She didn't own a car. She lives in Billings with no car, you know. And so finally Misty, who showed up the night before, Leroy's sister, Misty, Aunt Misty to Selena,
Mm-hmm.
um, showed up, and Jackie had her take her back to that house where she took her off because she
Okay.
didn't know where else to look. She drove up into the height. She drove all over. So she started there because that's where she last seen her, you know. The thing about that house is before the cops even went there, Jackie went there twice herself and went through the house as much as they would let her go through the house. So the first time she got to go through the house that day, she went looking for Selena. She went up to the upstairs part, and in one of the bedrooms, she found Selena's purse at the foot of the bed on the floor. Selena's purse. And Jackie said on the pillow, and in the bathroom upstairs was blood. And there was puke in that bathroom upstairs too. So she got the purse there, headed out, no Sal. People, she said there was one guy let her in, and he said that he let her in anyway. She went through the house, basically what she could of the house. She didn't go like through the whole house, the basement, that kind of stuff, because she found that purse right off the bat upstairs. So she left probably 2 o'clock or so. I got a call from our cousin, our Jackie's cousin, Danelle, and she said, Cheryl, she said, where's Jackie? And I said, she's driving around in Billings, you know. I said, she's looking for Sal. And she said, well, Sal took off here. We're at looking for her at the rest area. And I was like, what at rest area, you know? And she said, the one coming to Hardin. I said, okay, well, hey, I had talked to Jackie or Selena earlier, and I was like, wait now, you know, it was like not clicking in. What do you mean Sal's missing? You know, that's what she said. She's like, she's missing. They said she ran off in a field. And I was like, no, I just talked to her a few hours ago, you know? And she said, they pulled in here with Selena in that van, and it started acting up, and the guy got it going and just took off and left the two girls behind because he didn't want to stall again. That was the first story we heard.
One of the most confusing aspects of this case is the story of what happened at the rest area. It doesn't make any sense. Selena walking off for no apparent reason, the guys leaving the girls alone at the rest area. Cheryl explained her point of view on these events and also what happened to the female witness at the rest area.
Okay, here's what about this whole rest area thing. Here's what, when you try to figure out the details, the reason you can't is because that's just their story. That's just their story of where it happened. That's the story they come up with. Arlana wasn't even there. The mother in the second ride is the one who took her into Hardin and called that girl's dad. And that girl was so out of it, like they put her on something. But you know, I've never heard what they found in that blood test, because that girl's dad, Arlana's dad, her name's Arlana Pretty on top. Her dad came back over to the rest area and we're looking, and he said, hey, I made him draw her blood out at Crow Hospital. And so I don't know what was ever, we never did hear, but she was so out of it, she couldn't even talk hardly and give
So
details. See,
that is true.
and that's their
Wow.
story. That's their story. There's no proof they were there
Yeah.
other than their story.
And is she the one who said that Selena just walked off into a field?
She didn't say that. She was all out of it. She was barely talking, and she was screaming when her dad got her.
Wow. So
Yeah, she was not able to say this is what happened. When they interviewed her, she couldn't even remember anything. So those aren't her words.
Do you know who the guys were in this van? Or were they
Yeah.
good people? Were they known to be bad people?
They're bad Crows. They're Crow Indians. All of them are Native Americans, Crows, all of them. Some of them are even related to Selena.
The undersheriff at the time, Eric Winburn, when Selena was found, he basically said that she wasn't found sooner because the first 2 weeks of the search were sloppy and not well done. That
He
whoever was out
forgets
there,
to mention that from day 5 until day 13, 4 dogs left every single day right to Selena's direction. 4 dogs every day. She
that
wasn't there.
that's what I
They
wanted to
forget to
know.
mention that.
Well, they
And
don't
they
talk about
closed
it
it
at all.
off to us. We were, after a while, it was just the dogs. We
Really?
weren't all out there. We weren't allowed back out there. After the dogs came, we were kept from that side of that area. We couldn't go there no more where she was found. We weren't allowed there after the dogs came because they didn't want no more scents out there.
Did they have scent articles for Selena to give to the dogs? They had all
Yep,
that, and they
yep,
still. So they had
nothing.
dogs out there for over a week
Hmm.
with scent articles. She was a mile, if that, away, and they could
Less, yeah,
find.
yeah.
And you were there, right, at
Mhm.
the location, and
Every
so
day I watched them go. Every day I watched them come back, and I'd talk to them. I'd talk to the handlers, and they'd say we walked and walked. We covered it all the way to 9 miles and back for all them days. And they had faith in their dogs. They'd say, if anybody's gonna find it, it's gonna be Charlie, stuff like that. She's here. Nope, they didn't find them, but all around her you could see dog tracks, see horse tracks. You see all that out there. There's car tracks out there. They're full of shit because they didn't investigate. They didn't even find all her articles that were on her. We did as a family. Somebody in the family found them way after they investigated the seed because she wore
really,
2 rings all the time.
you know people that searched that were in that area
The
that could
day
say
we
she
were there,
wasn't there.
there was a man named Calvin Leader standing there with us with the sheriff. And Calvin said, I was here. I walked here. She was not here. I'm her grandpa. I walked all the time. I walked all over here. You know what? The Crow tribe even brought 30 employees to walk over back there. How come they didn't find them?
Hmm.
They walked from us to Hardin. So how come they didn't find her either? Because she wasn't there, because that was their damn story. That's the same reason they tell us she was found all curled up hugging her legs, because they had her somewhere. Same reason she didn't have alcohol in her body. Oh, because hypothermia. No, everything would have been there. Guess what was there? She was starved and dehydrated. She wasn't starved and dehydrated at home. She
Right.
wouldn't be starved and dehydrated from one night. So I was shocked when, what, 2, 3 days later, they said case closed after the sheriff stood next to me and Jackie and said, no, there's no way she was here. All of a sudden, case closed, she was here, hypothermia, before an autopsy. Winburn called, or whoever calls the shots there.
I think that when people look at this case, and I think what's hard for them to understand sometimes is how, since we have the sheriff and the undersheriff both being related to Selena, you would think that I think most people would think they would want to investigate this and make
Mhm.
sure that it's done right. Why do you
Oh,
think?
yeah.
Why do you think they're doing this?
Well, they don't get along with Selena and her mother. Leroy didn't even talk to her, his own daughter, for a year and a half. He didn't even look for her. Not only not at the rest area, anywhere. He didn't look one place. He even looked in his own backyard. How come he didn't look nowhere? The sheriff, he bailed on us. He quit stopping probably 2, 3 days into it. He quit coming to the rest area. Bighorn County quit. You know what they did do though? Park across the street at the other closed rest area and watch us all day. Just sit there. Like, why the hell aren't you out there looking? Why are you watching us?
I think a lot of people see that she died from hypothermia, or that that was the determination, and assume this must be an accident, but
Oh
that's
yeah,
not
no,
necessarily
no,
true.
no. That's an easy way out of investigating it. You
Yeah.
know, that's not even a real cause of death if you look at it. That's just the thing they're starting to act like is a cause of death and stuff. No, why was she there? 16-year-old girl. Yeah, if she was drinking alcohol, then who left her? You guys left her. You guys went home, passed out. All of them, except Selena,
Yeah.
you know? Not one of them came and looked for Selena. Not one of them came back to that rest area. That's how I know that was a lie. Why are you going to waste your time looking for her? You know she ain't there. Not one of them came back. Just the girl who was found's dad, Arlana's dad, is the only one who came out there.
Do you know if has she ever spoken up at all or anything? Has she
She's
talked?
just saying she doesn't remember anything.
Really?
And that's okay. That's another thing. That's okay for her to say that. Yeah. So, all of that's a story. It's just their story that's why it doesn't make sense. When you try to question it, it's because it didn't happen there. It didn't. I don't know where it happened. You hear so many things in the community that it's slowly piecing together, and like I said, they're starting to talk. People are telling us things, and just common sense. She was not there, and they weren't going to come and waste their time looking for her.
The Montana Department of Justice did a review of Selena's case. It was the only investigation that eventually led to charges against an individual. I asked Cheryl what she thought about the Montana DOJ's review of the case, and if she thought this outside agency did their job well.
No, blew a lot of hot up air at us. They didn't go find. We had to call them and tell them where people were. Hell, they weren't looking. Wade was having the time of his life in Florida. They didn't go back and investigate any more thorough than anybody else did. So, no, that's just another.
Finally, I wanted to know if Cheryl thought the records related to the case would be released, or what people could do to help.
Yeah, they're going to eventually have to release them. They can't, they're going to play their cards long as they can, but it's going through court, and Jackie's going to be there, and she's going to say, this is my daughter. Where these It's closed. They're lying when they're saying it's open. So I guess the justice part of this would just be continuing to tell not only Selena's story, everybody else who gets injustice in the system, because we have to work backwards as victims in this judicial system in this country and everywhere. We have to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. One little doubt over here lets everybody go free. That's the problem, is our justice system. There should be a law why all them adults went home and a 16-year-old was left behind for hypothermia to get her, and not one of them was charged.
Right, which is crazy because they charged Deandra Pittman, and she was definitely a part of that, but not as big of a part as other people.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's
they left
Selena's
her
ain't the only one there. All them cases in Bighorn County, same thing. Bonnie Three Irons, she left behind. They leave them. They don't care. The families know. The cops know who left them in the mountains to freeze. But what? They don't charge them with one thing. Not one thing. So as families, yeah, all of this is happening, but there's really not many laws that the attorneys or whoever will say, "Oh, we could win this case, so we're going to take it."
Cheryl also informed me of another important detail that seems to be often misreported. You'll find it said that Selena rode in the van with 4 men and 1 other girl, but according to Cheryl, the actual makeup of those in the van was 2 men and 3 women, not including Selena. Cheryl identified them as Wade Oldcrow, Robert Fogg in the Morning, Shanna Spotted Bear, Sarah Starr Wilkinson Horn, and Arlana Pretty on Top. The individual seen in the Snapchat video taken at the rest area appears to be Wade Oldcrow, possibly arguing with Selena. Arlana Pretty on Top was the one who took and posted the video. Sarah Starr Wilkinson Horn was reported missing earlier this year. but appears to have been found as she's no longer in Montana's missing person database and has Facebook posts as recent as April 2023. Wade Old Crow appears to be currently incarcerated in Yellowstone County, Montana, along with his brother Corey. Wade has charges dating back at least a few years. After the interview, Cheryl showed me a number of messages she received from people regarding Selena's case. They often provided tips or rumors, but the messages also show a community who believes a crime was likely committed. These messages should be treated as what they are, mostly tips and rumors. I've redacted any information that would identify who sent them. One message purports to be from someone who used to live at the house at 904 Miles Avenue. The individual described the house as a bad environment with drugs, alcohol, and people that would come and go. This person also describes an event where someone was threatened with a gun. They also shared a distrust for the official narrative about Selena making it to the rest area, and saying they wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of cover-up. Another message claims that the Old Crow boys were trying to get another girl to fight with Selena. One message I saw was from Shanna Spotted Bear. Shanna was one of the girls who was in the van with Selena. She says that she was in the van because she asked for a ride, and she did not even know who Selena was, saying that it was mostly Sarah Starr who was talking with Selena. Shanna says that Selena asked for a ride to Hardin, and indicates that she spoke with Selena's mom, Jackie, who expressed confusion about why Selena would ask for such a ride. Shanna ends by saying it seems like she is the only one cooperating with what's going on. One thing that seemingly doesn't make sense about this message is that she says her intended destination was Lockwood. Lockwood is back in the direction of Billings, and the group was moving towards Hardin, meaning they would have already passed her intended stop a long time ago. Cheryl also had a screenshot from a searcher who describes how they and their sons were in the area where Selena's body was located. They were driving around the area with others using ATVs, and believes it would have been impossible for them to miss her. Their conclusion is that Selena simply was not there at the time. I think it's also important I show this post from one of the individuals who was in the second car that came by and picked up Arlana at the rest area. In it, they are clearly not happy with how much Cheryl speaks out about the case, indicating that it wasn't any of their business to begin with, and that when they got to the rest stop, they only found one girl there and made sure to call the police department to try and find Selena. These messages show the chaos that can ensue when an incident like this hits a community. People are trying to figure out the truth of what happened, and the story that is told makes little or no sense. It doesn't help that the Bighorn County Sheriff doesn't want to talk about the case or share records on an incident they seem to think was simply an accident. It would go a long way if the county would just release their investigation into Selena's case, and maybe one day they will. Cheryl indicates that the county is currently being sued for release of the records by people who have the money to see it through. Hopefully, one day we will get to see just how thorough Bighorn County was in their investigation of Selena's death. Maybe this case truly is just a terrible accident, and searchers simply missed her body for 20 days. But that's a determination that the public simply can't make without the release of the records. Until that time, as Cheryl stated, the best thing we can do is to keep telling Selena's story, and not let it become one of the forgotten cases that become eternally shelved and inaccessible. Until next time, thanks for watching.